One of the types of art that I am really drawn to, I don't know if it's weird, I don't know if it's just me, maybe there's other people like that, but I'm drawn to kind of like over the top, like unnecessary types of art. You know what I mean? Like some people are drawn more to like watercolors and subdued images or maybe realism, and they just want to showcase how talented the artist is or how close the sketcher or the painter could get to real life. Maybe that's the type of art you're drawn to. I'm drawn to like bizarre, over the top forms of art. I like things that are mistaken for child paintings. I like art that's done on an iPhone. I like art that is like a massive installation. Anyway, that's just me, completely unrelated. Welcome to a new episode of Everything Phil Collins. Today is an episode I've been wanting to make for 2 years, 3 years, ever since I started the channel. It's been in the works that long, and I've been waiting for this one piece, this one final piece of the puzzle to show you, and it's been over 2 years in the making, so it's ready. I have it here. But first, I want to show you some other things. A couple of years ago, I love art. I love opulent art. I love, like I mentioned, things that just don't make sense. For example, a friend of mine made this. This is quite an expensive and gorgeous hardbound, hardcover, glossy book. This is the entire Bible, New Testament and Old Testament. But what's cool about this is there's no words at all. It's just numbers. It's the entire Bible with all of the words removed. Now, I guess some would call this poetry. I call this art because this is an expensive piece. It's humongous. It's over the top, but there's nothing in it. It's just numbers. And I mean, what does that say? What does that say to you? What does it say to me? I don't know, but that's art. To me, that's art. I think it's pretty cool. And a couple years ago, I said to my partner, I'd like to start collecting art, but specifically, I'd like to commission paintings of Phil Collins. I partly think it's funny. I partly think it's amazing. And I love the idea of things being created bespoke to my tastes and for me. And so it started me on this journey about 5 or 6 years ago where I started collecting custom paintings and drawings and more of Phil Collins. And I want to show you my collection today. First up is something you've probably seen on this channel. It is actually my favorite. And you can see by how much of my body this covers, how big this is. This was painted by my friend Julia from Canada. This is a real one-of-a-kind painting on canvas. I absolutely love the colors. I believe this is no jacket required press photos. Am I right? You can see he's kind of wearing a blue suit. If you look at this, it is kind of almost abstract, right? There's some just like heavy coloring in certain areas. It is my favorite. I think it's the lime green color of the background. I think it's also a very accurate portrayal. This is my favorite piece of art that I own ever. It sits in the studio. You see it on camera all the time. And I've used the artwork of this for the artwork of this channel. So this is like one of my favorite pieces. And it essentially kicked off the series of, I would say for the past 5 years, I've usually had 1 or 2 pieces commissioned. That was not too expensive. Again, it was just a one-off piece. And that kind of kicked off the series. I think I had someone commission that. And then while that was happening, I commissioned another person who just does like pencil sketches. So my friend Jason did this one I'm going to show you. So this was like technically my first one while that painting was being done. But anyway, I got these around the same time. So this is a sketch of Phil. And this probably, I mean, I had this painted in like 2020, I think, or sketched. So this is the actual pen. This is not pencil, sorry, this is pen. It's the actual one, so I'll reprint. This, of course, would be Invisible Touch-ish, or maybe like the Against All Odds time period. So how does this work? Well, usually what I do is if I find an artist or it's a friend I know who does great art, then I'll reach out to them and tell them about this project. For those people, it was like the project was brand new and I didn't have any examples to show them. And so what I would do is I'd go to Google and I'd grab a few images of Phil throughout his career that I thought were cool. And that I thought would maybe match the style. And I'll send them like 5 to 10, anywhere from stuff from the 70s all the way to the late 90s and say, you pick whatever you think that you could replicate well in your series. So I showed a bunch of pictures. I think this is the one with the pink background. Jason chose that for the pen inking, and Julia chose the colorful one for her acrylic paint. So I kind of let the artist choose. I just show them a bunch of things, and then oftentimes, I think with the Julia one, I was aware a couple of them they come in the mail, and I don't know what they've chosen, and I just see it when it comes in the mail. Sometimes they'll take a preview and show me, so that's pretty cool. As you can see, though, it's not like I have a house full of like acrylic or watercolor paintings of Phil Collins, although I would love that one day. I kind of like the idea of contacting a artist and asking them to create a Phil Collins portrait in their style. So you see pet ink here, and then you see acrylic. And so the next piece in my collection was a cartoonist I found on Instagram who's local. I'm forgetting his name, so forgive me. Maybe I'll put it in the comments. And again, I, maybe said some photos, but I just said, like, I like your style. You know who Phil Collins is, or you can research Phil Collins. And I want you to choose whatever you want. And he was an iPad artist. So this is like a cartoonist who works digitally in iPad. The result blew my mind. I probably would never have picked this as an idea. And so the fact that the artist still has their inspiration and their kind of their own artistic integrity in this project makes it more special. And so this is what I got. If you can tell, any diehard Genesis fans will know. Do you guys know where this is from? This is the marionette style cartoon character that Phil plays on the music video for A Trick of the Tail. This was done digitally, as I said, and I just thought this was such an incredible, and you got the fingers pulling the string. Remember they're using like the most primitive video technology to have Phil on the Trick of the Tail video kind of bouncing around guitars and on top of the piano when Steve and Tony and Mike are playing. It's kind of a goofy music video, but it's cute and quaint now that we look back. And so for the artist to like pick this on their own, it blew my mind. It really blew my mind. And the fact that he even knew about this character of Phil in the Genesis history. And it's actually I believe it's the only Genesis type in this collection. Very, very cool. Just this year, the only one that I've gotten this year. So I think I started in 2020. I had something done in 2020, maybe 2 pieces in 2020. Then I had 2021, I think, was the cartoon. Then maybe it was 2021 to 2022. I can't remember. Anyway, then I kind of took a year off. I didn't have anything. I was consulting with someone who was putting together a remarkable piece, which I'll show you in a second. And so I had to save up my money for that because it was a really substantial piece. And it was very different in the series. As that was happening, I did find another person who was like very prolific in watercolors. And I reached out to them about doing a piece. Again, this is a guy I know named Justin, and he's a tattoo artist, but he also does watercolors. He was doing a little bit more of like, the people who will paint your house. You show them a picture of your house, they'll do like a nice little quaint watercolor painting of your house that you hang, or like a house that you grew up in or something like that. It's a great gift idea. So I asked if he would do Phil Collins. And who knows, like, you never know if they're going to go a little bit more abstract, if they're going to be super on the nose, how realistic their painting style is. This one, I think, will blow your mind. It's just absolutely stunning, this watercolor piece I just got a couple months ago. Have a look at that. As I film this, I kind of forget what era this was, but I believe this is face value-ish. I want to say it kind of reminds me of the I Missed Again cover. Does that look right? Yeah. I think it's from I Missed Again. So this is like face value era. This is beautiful. This is so beautiful. It's so minimal. It's actually in a terrible frame right now. It's not in a custom frame. So I do need to get it better framed. A good question might be, where do you keep this collection? I think eventually I will want to keep it in a room of sorts. My studio where I film and work is an attic, and the walls are all slanted. And so I can't really hang pictures on the wall. So there's a couple like small areas where I keep the big acrylic one. I hang these on some of the knee walls. These are all up in my studio right now and at various angles. So if I'm working, recording, writing, playing the drums, filming, I can often see one wherever I'm looking. I like that. But I could see a day where I hang them in one room or in a bigger studio. Or I would love to do like when this collection gets much bigger, to do it in like an art gallery for a showing or something. I will say, before I show you my last piece, which is going to blow your mind, I will say I'm not open to just anybody creating a Phil Collins portrait. I see a lot of like fine art examples of Phil, a lot of tattoos of Phil in the band, and I'm not drawn to everyone. I don't think I would collect anybody's painting or drawing of Phil en masse, regardless of the style or the quality. I'm not really out there shopping on Etsy of people who've sketched him. I like the kind of custom commissioned thing. I like finding the artist and then surprising the artist with this request and saying, I like your art. Would you do this as part of this series? Paying them whatever their rate is to do it. I like that process as opposed to me going out to eBay and just looking for art that's out there. There's been a couple times where somebody has posted something that they painted as a tribute to Phil, and I've reached out to them and asked them if they'd be interested in selling it. I haven't bought any pieces that way. I'm not really interested in like collecting in that way. I like the idea of slowly, methodically curating, which brings me to my last piece. A few years ago, somebody followed me on Instagram in the music space, and they were a caricature artist, like a cartoonist. They do these kind of exaggerated, almost similar to what you would get like a character on a street corner. You know, the people that you'll sit down and they'll do like a funny little exaggerated version of yourself. So I found this guy who does these cartoons of like major celebrities, and I thought it was kind of cool. And I thought, oh, that'd be an interesting one to get. Is like we sort of have a cartoon one, but that's like a little bit more Pixar-y or Disney. I hope maybe one that's like a little bit more like Looney Tunes. And so I reached out to him. He didn't just have drawings, cartoons, and posters, but he also had sculptures, nearly life-size busts of celebrities like baseball players or TV stars. And that got me thinking, man, I do not have a sculpted bust of Phil Collins. Can I really call myself a true fan if I don't have a custom, bespoke, sculpted, out of clay bust of the great Phil Collins? Well, I can call myself a true fan because I do have such a thing. Let me introduce to you my favorite piece in my collection. This is a bespoke piece from David O'Keefe, made in Florida. We had been working on this piece for the better part of 2.5 years. I wasn't able to buy Christmas presents for my kids or feed them because I needed to save up money for this piece. This is a one of a kind. As you can see, this is from the No Jacket Required ish era, Invisible Touch era, the long hair era, the more like the similar to the pencil, the pen drawing. It's a little bit of like the Live Aid. There was some paper wrapping that actually sweated and stuck to his chin. Look at the intricacies of this. I'll do some B-roll. Isn't this incredible? It's incredible. I mean, going back to what I said at the beginning of this ridiculous pursuit, I love when you can have a $100 Bible that has no words in it, or $3,000 art piece that my mother-in-law thought the kids painted. Even in music, I have a record that is all just a single drone note. It's a vinyl that was pressed 1,000 times with beautiful artwork. And when you put it on, it's just what sounds like a sine wave that modulates every once in a while. That to me is art because it doesn't make any sense. And I think great art shouldn't make sense. And a 40-year-old father of two shouldn't have a very expensive sculpted bust of Phil Collins in his living room. But great art doesn't make sense. So there you have it. that's my art collection of Phil Collins so far. I have 4 painted and hand-drawn pieces and 1 sculpted piece. Here's a funny little story. I was out for a run a couple of months ago. This took a few years to be done, a few months to pay for. It cost about $300 or $400 to ship. Anyway, a couple of months ago, I was out for a run. It was before it arrived, but I knew it was going to be arriving soon. I ran past this house, and here where I live, it's very common that if you have a piece of furniture or something you don't want anymore, you can put it on the curb. And either the garbage man will take it, or usually before garbage day, somebody else will take it. Well, I ran past this house in a nice neighborhood that had this tall white pillar, like the type of pedestal that you would see a bust sitting on in an art museum or in an art gallery or a museum. The guy was out cutting his lawn. I was like, "Is that for free?" He's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Okay, I'll be right back." So I finished my run, came home, hopped in the car, drove there. It was gone. Unfortunately, I would have loved to have a nice white pillar to put this on. But maybe the cats would knock it over. Anyway, let me know what you think of my collection. Let me know what is your favorite piece. If you have any ideas for me in the future, what type of Phil Collins art I should add to my collection, please let me know in the comments. And if you think I've completely lost my mind, you don't need to put that in the comments. I already know. Thanks for watching.